Welcome to Rock Solid Radio. I'm Linda Hutchinson, the Executive Director of Rock Solid Families.
And I'm Merrill Hutchinson, President of Rock Solid Families. And we are excited to have you join us as we talk all things faith, family, and fitness. A special thanks to Maxwell Construction and Mansfield Insurance Agency for their support of Rock Solid Radio, building a stronger community one family at a time.
Welcome to Rock Solid Radio. I'm Linda Hutchinson, the Executive Director of Rock Solid Families, sitting next with my hubby, Merrill.
That's me.
We can't wait to get to our show today. You know, hun, this is a long overdue one, which, you know, we're taking questions from our listeners, from our clients, and we're doing a whole month of shows. We're titling this series, That's a Good Question, and we've gotten a lot of great questions.
Oh, that's a good question. Is that the title?
That's the title.
That's a good question.
But we've been getting some great questions, and hun, it's really crazy because all of these lately ones have been from a theme that I think is way overdue on our agenda.
Yeah, what we did is we took these first group of questions and kind of put them under one title or heading, and that is co-parenting.
Yeah.
And so the last time we actually did a full-blown co-parenting show was December of 2018. So that's 2 years ago.
That's crazy.
And, you know, we kind of thought about that, like that's probably well over 50% of the families that come in here. We are dealing with co-parenting situations, and typically they're not very easy. So we're going to spend some time today talking about the co-parenting situation. It's not always pretty, but we're going to do our best to try to help folks out with some of the questions that they have fed into us, and hopefully we can give some clarity.
So we would love for you to go back and listen to that show. We thought it was still very valuable information. But, hun, I do realize...
I was so much younger then.
Not crazy, 2 years ago. We've been doing it that long. But I realized in that show, hun, a lot of our conversation was about the need and the importance of working together with your ex and getting on the same page and being aligned in your parenting strategies. And the questions that we got were really... And I don't even think they realized it, but they all kind of have that same theme of, what if that's not possible? What if that other person isn't wanting to play ball with you? Then what do you do?
Yeah, that is the challenge right there. I mean, we're going to tackle that more, but I think we have to put a disclaimer on this show. And this is not a disclaimer that anybody wants to hear, but this is a reason. Divorce is ugly. It hurts. Mm-hmm. It's against God's way, and there's a reason. As we've always said, sin is not sin because God just wants to make up something. Sin is something that causes hurt and pain in people. And so divorce goes against God's way because it hurts people. It makes it hard. There's feelings involved. There's kids involved. And so we wish we had this great little fix, like, well, if you just do this, everything's going to be fine and you're going to be on a new chapter in life. The reality of it is it's going to be hard. Yeah. And we're going to ask for two people to come in and be good, vital, strong players in this. But maybe even more than two, right? When we're blending families and stuff like that. But we're still going to try to work through it. You know, at the end of the day, you just can't walk away from it. You have to deal with the situation. So hopefully we can help with that.
Yeah, for sure. And, you know, like I said, we're doing questions all this month. And we don't want to use names. So we're not going to use names or specific information that would kind of divulge your privacy. And so we would love it if you're listening and you have a question for us, whether it be parenting, marriage, faith, fitness, you name it, relationships, coworkers. We would love for...
Wait, are you trying to say you're going to put in a complaint about your coworker?
Is
that
boss,
where you're going with that?
Boss. If you have a problem about your boss, no. But, you know, so what we did is we took the questions that we received and we kind of generic-fied them. Is that a word?
Oh, my gosh.
Generalized
right
them. Generalized them. And so, you know, maybe you're hearing your story in this. Maybe you think this is about you. So what we did is we want you to be able to put your own story into this. So, you know, if you have a question, reach out to us. You can get us at rocksolidfamilies.org, or you can call us at 812-576-ROCK. That's 7625.
All right, let's go pay some bills. We'll do a few announcements, and then let's get into the meat.
Yes.
All right. First, we want to thank Mansfield Insurance Agency. They have built a reputation in business built on caring, listening, and protecting their customers. Mansfield Insurance Agency began in 1981 by Jim Mansfield and is dedicated to serving individuals and businesses in Indiana, Ohio, and Kentucky. If you have an insurance need, call Mansfield Insurance Agency today at 800-230-3927.
We also want to thank Maxwell Construction, founded in 1988 by John Maxwell. And since that time, it's grown and expanded to be one of the most recognized commercial construction companies in the tri-state. What separates Maxwell apart from their competition is their emphasis on being service-oriented. So if you have any kind of commercial construction needs, call Maxwell Construction today at 812-537-2200.
You would think after 2 years we could walk through commercials without a single
my goodness
blooper,
gracious.
but
Yeah.
no.
Yeah, no.
We're both in that together.
Exactly.
Hey, one of the things that we have talked about is the library of shows that we have created that hopefully our intention has been shows of help, something that can help people in the moment or down the road. And so, this show today is a perfect example. If we go 2 years back in our bank of shows, we have an excellent show about co-parenting. And so I want to put out a little push there. Man, if you're listening to this and you think that you hear a good message or you just like what we're trying to put out here, do us a favor and first, listen to our show, right? Second, subscribe to our channel that we put out there. That just helps us in terms of the amount of traffic that goes through. It brings us up in the search engines. And also, to give us a 5-star rating. Like it or not, this is a somewhat of a competitive cycle to be in terms of trying to work and get your information out, and everybody's trying to search and get their name up to the top. This is not about us making money. That does not happen out of this.
Nope.
This is about message. And if you like our message, please help get it up to the top so we can get these messages out to others. Yeah,
this is, we feel, is an important mission of strong and healthy families. And if you believe in that mission as well, then that's a very easy thing to help us with. It costs nothing. And it just helps us to get this message out of there is hope and there is help for families who are struggling. So, Hun, before we get any further into our topic of co-parenting, we want to make some disclaimers. And one of those is that you're listening to faith-based coaches, people who have a background of counseling and coaching and teaching, and that's where we're coming from. And so you may not agree with everything we're going to say today, but I pray that you won't turn us off, that you'll listen, and that maybe glean at least a couple things out of here that maybe you will agree with or you will be willing to give a try, because things aren't going so hot the way you're trying it.
Right. And I mean, the importance of this is because we understand how flawed we are, and we understand how uncertain sometimes there are of situations and problems with people. And we know that, we have to go to God's word for us to find the foundation to work our counsel from, our decision making when we're helping somebody. And that doesn't mean we don't look at science. We look at science all the time. We have it in here with our fitness, with our research. But at the end of the day, when we're talking about, well, what is the model that God intended, we use that as our basis. And so here's the challenge that oftentimes, especially more and more, does not coincide with what the world is thinking. We see right away, man, if somebody's treating you wrong, you should just do them wrong. And that's one of the things that we would contradict. We would say, no, I know you want to do them wrong. I get that. But we have to do it a different way here as Christians.
Yeah. I mean, I've had a couple clients on just in the last couple days who are in a bad spot, young and old. And I will look at them and we'll talk about boundaries and we'll talk about that fence that guards our heart and our mind. And I'll ask them, I'm like, what is it that guides that and protects that? And I told them, for me, that fence is God's word. That's what's going to protect and align and kind of show me what's my responsibility and what's not. And they don't agree with me. They don't think that's important. But then I'll ask them, what is your guide? Like, what is guiding your decisions and your values? And they couldn't answer me.
Yeah, many people have never actually grounded how they make decisions. And so that's what we've had to go through in our process.
Yeah, so that's one of our disclaimers, that God and his word are going to really be the foundation of everything that we do and say. And we don't shove it down your throat, but we just feel like that is what's gives us a peace. That's what steadies our mind and our heart and our decisions, because we're not willy-nilly blowing all over the place, changing like the wind. That's where we go to.
Yeah. Well, you're old-fashioned. That's
Oh,
the problem.
Actually, I just heard that last night from a teenager. That's old school. Old school.
I think there are other descriptors on that, too.
Actually, there was a little few foul words, but we won't get into that.
Yeah. Okay, so we are going to start tackling some of these questions, all right? And as you said, hon, we're going to protect names and all those kind of things. And I think you could probably easily expand and broaden these questions to apply to you in your situation. So the question basically is this. Again, this is co-parenting, right? So we have this breakup that has happened, separation, divorce, and now we're trying to come together and we're trying to raise kiddos, right? So here's the question. What do you do as a husband and wife in a blended family situation when your ex does something illegal? I'm super angry right now. Not me, but that's the question. What do I tell my kids, and how do I keep my anger in check? Ooh,
that's hard.
So we have the ex is probably, from what I'm gathering here, is probably at some level still involved with the kids, but they're involved in something that's illegal. All right. Take it away, honey. I served you up a softball here.
Wow. Well, and I appreciate this question acknowledging I'm pretty hot about this. There's a lot of emotion in that. And, immediately Mama Bear or Papa Bear comes out in this, and you all of a sudden want to grab your children and protect them from anything that, and I don't know it might be drugs. I don't know, but those are the kind of things that are scary for a parent to see their child exposed to,
Yeah.
So what do you tell them, hon? I'm going to throw that back to you.
You chicken. Well, first off, we use the word illegal. So illegal can mean a lot of things. Did he break the speed limit when he was driving? Did he break the speed limit when he was driving with kids? Is he dealing drugs? Is he involved in some, major crime of some sort? So first off, I would really have to look at the level of illegal, and I'm not trying to qualify that other than I'm looking at safety for the kids. I'm looking at safety for the kids and the family. And so if he's involved, or she is involved in something illegal that will trickle into the kids' world, like dealing drugs, like being in something that's nasty like that. And I know this, okay? I know this. I have evidence of it. We are called to go to the police, whether that's you or I, whether that's a private citizen. So first off, if I know somebody's hand is in the cookie jar of crime, a lot of people don't realize that. If I see a crime, I actually have a responsibility to that. And so even us as counselors, we can't say, well, this guy came in all high and drunk and everything and just look the other way. I have to deal with this in a legal manner.
Right. Yeah. And I think that part of that, too, is letting the natural consequences of the legal system take care of that. So, yes, we're not saying to harbor a fugitive.
Right.
But I like the fact that you qualify that, hon, of, come on, a speeding ticket, and all of a sudden you want to take the kids and fight for full custody because they got a speeding ticket, Yeah. But if it's their 8th DUI and they're landed in jail, then you need to really evaluate, like, do I want my children in the car with them anymore? Do I want them around in their home overnight? So there's a level of that, and you really have to put yourself in their shoes. Like, is this unforgivable? I mean, first of all, there's no such thing as unforgiving sin, but if that is something that you could not see yourself doing, or you would never put your child in that risk, then that's a different level of, writing a bad check.
Yeah. So a lot of this is going to be based on any level of trust that you have with this other person. That trust is very different than whether I like them or not. So let's be real here. I may not like them because of the situation I'm in, but trust is basically can I believe in how this person is functioning? So let's go back to the speeding. Okay. So they've got the kids in the car and they're speeding and they get a ticket. Now, if I'm really super mad at this person and I'm already looking for dirt on them,
that's the key.
I'm going to actually blow that up. Oh, they're a dangerous driver.
Exactly.
They're reckless driving it. Yeah, we've seen that just to try to get leverage. I have to first put my own emotions in check, and I have to look, okay, wait, what kind of person is this? Because believe it or not, you might be stirring up the pot and ultimately making things even worse.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now,
And it
on
could
the
come to bite you in the butt.
yeah. Now, on the other hand, if I see a pattern of this, of recklessness, I see a pattern, and I don't have trust in this person, it may be something that we start to talk about. Like, yeah, I know it's a speeding ticket, but it happens to be the 10th one in the last 6 months, and he drives my kids around.
Yeah.
Okay? So I think there takes a little bit of talk here. It takes a level head. I would seek counsel on these kinds of things because when you're involved, your emotion can get out in front of you. And so whether you come in to see somebody like Linda and I, or you talk to a pastor or a good friend that you can trust or counsel, because they can help keep you in check. Like, wait, am I going to blow this up into something bigger? And usually that gets uglier.
Yes. And, you got to pick your battles. So, we're kind of summarizing this question to say this. If there is something that had happened illegally that is putting your children at risk or harm and potentially could be ugly down that road for them, then yes, I would first make sure that the legal process is involved, if it's not already, and then let the natural consequences happen. Don't save them,
right?
Okay, don't save them, but also don't blow that up and throw that in their face, because at the end of the day, we all are sinful people. We all make mistakes, and so you're going to want to extend grace to the level that you would want to be extended grace if this happened to you,
right?
Even if you never thought you would do everything like that. Be careful, because what's the thing about throwing rocks, throwing stones? People in glass houses.
Oh, the glass house. Yeah, that's not good.
Yeah, you don't want to throw
That's why we don't
rocks.
have a glass house.
Yeah, for sure.
There is another part to this, hun, though, that we can kind of fade through if we're not careful. And it says, what do I tell my kids? Okay.
Good point.
So, I've worked with kids pretty much all my professional career. And, there's been different schools of thought on that, like always be honest with your kids, let your kids be in on everything. I don't buy that. I tell kids things at the level that they can understand.
Yeah.
So
And
I don't
handle.
need to be telling my 5-year-old that daddy's been dealing drugs down on the street corner. I need to understand who they are. Oftentimes parents tell kids things that they really can't digest or understand because they're going to try to invoke the emotion of the kid to get the kid to feel a certain way about this parent. And so now we're starting to use the kids as a pawn in the chess game. And that's just bad parenting. So I let the kids in at the level that they can understand. And they don't always need to know all the details. I mean, if it's my 16-year-old and I can tell him a whole lot more.
Sure.
If it's my 5-year-old, I just have to kind of walk through that at their level.
Yeah, and we're not saying that you lie to them, but I'm saying that you don't get specific. You don't give them more than they're asking for. If they flat out ask, where is my dad? I don't want you to go, oh, he's in Disney World,
right.
But if he's a 5-year-old, you can be more general of, well, he's not around right now, because part of it is, why isn't he talking to me? Why isn't he coming to see me? And so if he is in jail, you don't want to make up the story and make them feel like that he doesn't care about you anymore. He physically can't come and see him. And so be very careful on how you set that partner up, that spouse up to be in that child's eyes.
Yeah, the biggest thing with younger kids, like I'm just trying to think of, under the age of 5 or 6, you as the parent who is dealing with that child, you're there to provide security and safety. That kid at the end of the day just needs to think that the world is well with them. That they can't figure out everything else. So your job is to keep their world in check. Do not throw them in a situation that they can't handle with adult size problems. So you need to protect them from that in the level that's appropriate.
I know this isn't about illegal, but I've had this recently with a client whose ex had a horrible accident and he was on life supports. And, it was one of those things where, what do I tell my child there? And so at the level that child can handle, you can't push more than they can handle, like going to see that dad or, telling them all the details. You want to be careful that you protect their heart. And like you said, at the end of the day, they feel safe.
Right.
and that the world is okay.
Yeah, I still want them to go to school or preschool or hang with their buddies. Because that's where they are at that point in their life.
When you say keep your anger in check, I would say you mentioned, hun, outside counsel. I think you need to go someone and to talk to someone neutral, not your mom, not your dad, not your best friend. I think it needs to be somewhere who's going to be able to speak the truth in love and maybe tell you what you don't want to hear. Okay.
Yeah.
That's just question number 1.
Okay, let's get to question 2.
About co-parenting too.
All right.
My daughter is having a hard time forgiving her dad for the things he has done to her and our family. How do I help her through this really hard time? So I don't think this one's necessarily something...
I'm going to go take a bathroom break right now.
Goodness.
I'll let you deal with this.
I don't think this is something necessarily illegal. It sounds like this daughter is really blaming dad for the breakup of the family and is really having some harsh feelings toward him. And so, and that's, by the way, extremely normal and common, that a child feels like they have to choose and decide who was at fault. Okay. And you have a lot to do with that as the parent of how they're perceiving this divorce, and it's tough. If dad did walk out, if dad did have the affair, it's very tough not to say this is dad's fault. But you got to think about that relationship with their dad. How are you kind of laying the groundwork for them to even have any kind of relationship? If they ask you tough questions about what daddy did or where daddy is, then maybe that's a turnaround of you need to ask dad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, again, this question is a little bit based on their age and ability to handle what has gone on. This would be very different for a 16-year-old versus a 5-year-old again. But the idea here is I want to think long-term. In the moment, that kid could get really ticked off, and especially if I'm ticked off at the ex, I could feed that fire in a negative way.
And that most likely is happening.
Yeah, that when there's a lot of hurt, that goes on. And so when I think about that long-term, the amount of damage I'm actually doing, because at the end of the day, that is this daughter, that is her father in this case of the example. That is her father. And if there's going to be a potential for a relationship, I'm going to try not to blow that up.
Yeah.
Here at Rock Solid Families, at every chance, we're going to try to keep family restored and healthy because of the long-term play.
Yep.
This is important. And so I have to look at it from the long term that I know you're upset right now. It's a tough time. I'm hurting. This is really difficult. But to help calm them and try to help, especially younger kids, move their hurt, their pain from emotion to thinking. Like even little kids, why did daddy do this? What's he doing? All of these anger kind of things to help calm them and say, I wonder what we could talk to daddy about.
Right.
And to help them get the right questions. This is why it's so important. We're going to get to this even more down the road of even when we are upset with our ex, to try not to burn the bridge of communication.
Yep.
Because sometimes, especially with the younger kids, you may be the bridge that kid needs to help walk through and have the conversation with their parent. So at the end of the day, I really don't want and again, this is just in our example, I don't want the mom to own dad's behavior.
Right.
I want the mom to be able to communicate to the dad, hey, our daughter's just really struggling here.
Right.
And for the sake of our daughter, could you come and have some conversation?
Yeah.
And hopefully that'll help to mend and build a future relationship.
And that's very hard to navigate and not come off very attacking and demeaning. Like, it would be nice if you would call your daughter once in a while, or how about you come over and spend some time with her? Like, those kind of things are going to push your ex away. Okay. And hun, I keep thinking back about your mom and dad who divorced after 30 something years, and the way your mom handled that infidelity, and her approach was so full of grace, so full of truth, but the way it was such a high character. She took the high road every single time, and she's gone, she's passed away, but that legacy of grace is something I will never forget. The way she talked about your dad, the way she talked to your dad was always so grace-filled. It doesn't mean she was a doormat. Doesn't mean she accepted his inappropriate behavior. She was not a doormat, no. But I loved that. And so please, if you're listening out here and you have been hurt and betrayed, please, please remember, we are all people who have let others down. We all make mistakes. And if we can extend grace and forgive, again, forgiveness is all about you. It has nothing to do with what your spouse, ex did or did not do, okay? Trust is another thing. I'm not saying you have to trust him right now or you ever will again, okay? But forgiveness is something that you can do today. And it's important for your kids that you do, because you're going to speak to that ex and speak to your children in a different tone, in a different approach, if you have one of grace and forgiveness.
Yeah, the beauty of what my mom did was, at first, her first year, I'm losing track of time frame there, but maybe that first year, she was in the hurt and the pain and thinking about her.
Yeah.
After that time went on, though, she started to think about the pain that the family was experiencing. And being protectors of our mom in that situation, we were kind of only going to forgive my dad at the level that my mom was going to.
Yeah.
So she still led our healing and forgiveness. And so when mom released that, and she released it because she saw how us kids, she said, we have to start getting this family back together at Christmas and birthdays and all these things. And so my mom led the movement towards healing and forgiveness. And so if you are the hurting ex right now, for the long term of your family, you actually have a lot of control over how well your family gets through this in the healing and the forgiveness mode.
Yeah.
We better get to the next question, honey. We're going to run out of time.
Yeah. Okay. So just a disclaimer with that. We did a whole podcast on rebuilding trust. I would really recommend a couple months ago that you go back and listen to that, because we kind of step by step on how forgiveness and trust can need to be separated and how you would go about with both. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Question number 3. My husband and I both come from divorce and have children from our first marriages. Both our exes are much more lenient with our kids than we are and refuse to respect our boundaries that we've set up in our home. How do we navigate 3 different sets of rules in a blended family? By the way, we really can't have a civil conversation with either one. So that's not really a realistic option right now.
Okay, let's go thank our sponsors and end this show.
Oh, my goodness.
So this is the reality of divorce in many, many homes. This is the one that we would love to avoid answering. This is the one that we try to avoid when we do our coaching premaritally. This is the question we don't want to ever have to get to, because this is not easy. And we would love to be able to say, well, just do this and it'll all work out. Divorce is ugly for this reason and this particular question right here in large part. And so I've said this many times on this show. We have people spend lots and lots and lots of legal money on counsel, on trying to see who's going to get the car, who's going to get the house, who's going to get the couch when the divorce is going on. And they spend zero money on how are we going to parent on the next chapter. And this is where the mistake is made. You know, at the end of the day, the couch and the car, those can be replaced. The relationship in the family, when it is broken, can be next to impossible at times to restore it. And so this is where we at Rock Solid Families, hun, I mean, I've sat in rooms with people who hate each other. And I don't really care, because at the end of the day, it's in selfishness, hurt, immaturity, all these things, but we're trying to build something bigger than ourselves. And so when we have these situations, to try to first coerce the whole group, to bring the whole group together to say, listen, we can make everybody's life better. Everybody's life can actually be better here, because working together, all of a sudden you start to see that the kids are better kids. You know, if we have separation like this, and we're talking about little kids turn into big kids.
Oh, my
and the next thing you know, you have total manipulation.
Oh, they're playing you.
And you're teaching your kids terrible, terrible things about how to manipulate, how to be selfish, how to be just single-minded, and how they approach other people. So this is, please get help. This is difficult to answer in the sense that there's, because it's a broad question. I mean, right here we have 4 different adults that we're dealing with, and then all the kiddos, all right? And so I don't know the exact for the answer of all this because I don't know all the personalities involved. But I do know one thing. Until this whole group comes together and arrives at a common approach, they're not going to get anywhere.
Yeah. And so, hon, again, that's where we went on our co-parenting show. But I can hear somebody on the other side of this podcast saying, that's easy to say, but they won't come to the table. Right. They won't come to the table. They won't even talk to me. They've blocked my number. The only way we communicate is through the kids. I've had this in my office. And so I would say to this couple that you and your husband, you or your wife, have got to be on the same page. You
mean your current or your
current,
ex?
Your current.
The one that you're living with now.
Yes. Because the reality is that the kids are going to try to divide and conquer, and so are the exes. And so you two have got to be on the same page. So come to the table with whoever's willing to work together.
Yep. Okay.
Even if the kids are against you, because very well the ex could have played you against you and made you two the bad guys. Okay. It can get ugly. I mean, I've seen it. It's ugly. The reality is you and your spouse, your current spouse, have got to come together, get some professional help on how you navigate the uglies because they're throwing things at you. They're twisting the truth. They're sneaking behind your back. I've seen it. I've seen all of it. And what happens normally, that's why our divorce rate for second and third marriages is higher. It's 70 to 80% because of this extra little thing that gets in there. Yeah. So please, that's when you guys got to have a rock solid foundation. That's when you got to start coming together and being one flesh, one voice. And keep investing in that relationship. Okay. Don't let that suffer. And there is hope. Set some healthy boundaries. We can help you do that here. We do that all the time. And there is some help in the storm.
Right. I think part of this, like you said, so I can't get the whole team together. It's kind of what you're saying. So you get who you can.
Right.
All right. Whoever has that same ultimate goal of raising these kiddos, you get them together. And you arrive at what is valuable in your home. And that's why we go back to Scripture, okay? So we let that be our guide, like, okay, these are the rules of how we're going to raise our kids. And you develop your value system for your home.
Yes.
And you don't apologize to your kiddos. It doesn't mean you throw it in their face. You say, hey, kids, in our home, this is how we're going to roll, okay? And we express that in love and just giving them the attention, but also saying, hey, we know long-term these are what are going to benefit you.
Yeah.
And at that point, you can't control all the external forces. This is no different than your own kid leaving and going to school every day.
Yeah.
I mean, I can only control what my kid sees in my home, but when they hop on the bus, they see some crazy stuff.
Yeah.
I need to create a strong enough rudder of direction in that kiddo's life that when they walk into the other home and they go, wow, this is really different here and it's pretty chaotic, I need them at some point to be able to say, yeah, now I see why my mom's doing this or dad's doing this. So if you don't have cooperation, still set your rules, your values. We're going to say pin them on God's word because that way you know that it's tried and true and then start to move forward.
Yeah, and it definitely involves sometimes other people besides mom and dad. Okay.
Yeah.
I've had a lot of situations where one of the, usually it's the wife is living with grandma and grandpa. Right. And so then I would say, get grandma and grandpa in the room too. Because if there's other different voices that are saying different things, and then all of a sudden there's all these different rules and all these different opinions and values, then you have another mess. So like you said, get anyone who's willing to come together to be on the same page for that child. That is the most safe and secure thing you can give them.
And as you're saying that, Hannah, I'm thinking, well, what if I'm the one that's the outlier? What if everybody else is coming together and agreeing, and I'm the one?
Yeah.
I think it takes an honest look in the mirror.
Yeah.
Maybe you are a big part of the problem.
Yep.
Maybe you are self-righteous to the point of being harmful.
Yeah.
Okay. Peace is extremely important. So sometimes arguing about petty stuff, not deep value stuff, but petty stuff, just because maybe we're hurt, is stuff that we have to die to for the sake of the large picture here. So sometimes, if you feel like everyone's against me, you may want to look in the mirror. This is a reflective time to go, gosh, maybe I'm not doing this right. Okay. And this is another time to seek counsel from outside to say, can I run this idea by you? Am I thinking about this right? Or am I a little bit off kilter?
Yeah. So that would be awesome. So, as we wrap up our challenge today, our questions today have been centering around co-parenting. And this is, like we said, is a huge, difficult situation. It's a mess. Divorce is messy. And we add multiple people and different ideas. It can make things complicated. So the best way to alleviate the complication is to get rid of the confusion. And it does take work and it does take compromise, and you're not going to get your way all the time, but pick your battles, So our challenge this week is to talk specifically to those in your family that are willing to come around the table and then work for a solution that works best for your family. And we would say to ground that in something that is unshakable. And we believe that's God and His Word.
Okay. I'd like to say that we'll never do a show like this again, but I know that that's not the reality. And so in the meantime, we at Rock Solid Families always want to be here available to help with this. So please, if you're in a situation similar to what maybe we have talked about today, or someone who is, please contact us at rocksolidfamilies.org or 812-576-7625. This is a very real thing with long-term generational impact. And so don't act like, at some time this will pass. It'll pass, but it'll pass with sometimes deep wounds and scars that will be repeated again in the next generation. And so to try to put a break on that now and start proper healing, that's what we want to be part of, and we just encourage you to do the same.
So as we close, we want to thank again our sponsors for today's show, Maxwell Construction, Mansfield Insurance Agency. Please let them know you appreciate this programming and the difference it's making. We think this is an important show. So thanks for listening to Rock Solid Radio, building a stronger community, one family at a time. Make it a great day. Thanks for joining us for another episode of Rock Solid Radio. For help or more information about what you've heard on today's show, contact us at rocksolidfamilies.org or call us at 812-576-ROCK. That's 812-576-ROCK. Again, a huge thanks to our sponsors, Maxwell Construction and Mansfield Insurance Agency. If you have questions you'd like answered on our show, or you want to chime in on something you heard, go to our Facebook page, Rock Solid Families. We'd love to hear from you. Don't forget to tune in next week for another episode of Rock Solid Radio. I'm Linda Hutchinson, and for my husband Merrill and I, thanks for tuning in to Rock Solid Radio, building a stronger community, one family at a time.